students. Yesterday we studied about the parental care in fishes. Today we'll discuss the same parental care in amphibians. So, looking after the eggs or young ones until they are able to defend themselves from predator is known as parental care. Amphibians are more diverse than any other group in showing parental care, especially those which lives in the tropical region. Anurans shows much greater diversity than urodils and apodans. The method of parental care in amphibians is divided into two categories. The first one is the protection through building nests, nurseries, or shelter, and the second is direct caring, which is provided by the parents. So these in all these diagram you can see the parental care via various nests and nurseries um, provided by amphibians to their young ones or eggs. The first important criteria uh, by for protection by nest involves the selection of site. So many amphibians lay their eggs in the protected moist microhabitats on the land. As many tropical frogs and toads lay their egg on land near the water. And many tree frogs lay their eggs not in the land but on the leaves and branches which overhangs the water. For example, species of Phylomedusa, Rhacophorus, and Hyloids glue their eggs to the foliage that hangs over the water. Rhacophorus malabaricus in India and Chiromantis of Africa also deposit their eggs on the trees. So the selection of site is very important and it should be near the water. The second important category under parental care via nest is the defending their eggs or territories. So the male green frog Rana clementans and some other species maintain territories and also attack the small intruders in order to defend the eggs. The male or female even guards the eggs. For example, in Mentophyrini robusta, the male sits over and hold with their hands the elastic gelatinous envelope that contains the eggs in number around 17. Some tree frogs also lay the eggs above water and may sit beside the eggs or even sometimes rest on the top of them in order to guard them from intruders. As in case if there is no guarding frogs, it may result in the desiccation or death of the eggs. So it is very important to defend the eggs or mark the territories. Also, one of the important criteria of showing parental care is the direct development. Some of the species avoid the larval stage in order to avoid the larval mortality. For example, Eleutherodactylus, Arthroleptis, Hyloids, Hyla nebulosa. In these all species avoids the larval mortality. So they show the direct development. This is also a kind of parental care. So the different kinds of nest formed by amphibians for the parental care includes the foam nest, mud nest, tree nest, and also the gelatinous bags. So there are many amphibians that converts their copious mucus secretion to form the nest for their young ones. For example, the Japanese tree frog Rhacophorus schlegeli, the mating couple together digs a hole and forms the tunnel where eggs are laid and they are left in a frothy mass. This is done to avoid the desiccation and destruction of eggs. And during the rains, the hatching tadpoles are washed down the sloping tunnel into the pond or river water for further development. Also, some anurans lay the eggs in the nest of foam which floats on the water, and the female emits huge mucus and she beats it vigorously to form foam with the help of her hind legs to lay the eggs, and when tadpole hatches they drop from foam into the water. So this was the example of foam nest formed by some kinds of amphibians. Besides this, some frogs also form the mud nest. For example, the Brazilian tree frog Hyla fabri. Here the male digs and forms the mud nest for their young ones. Another kind of nest involves the tree nest. The South American tree frogs Philomedusa hypochondrials lays egg in the folded leaf and nest with the margin glued together by the cloacal secretions. And when the tadpoles are formed, they fall straight into the water below. Besides these different kinds of nest, some amphibians also laid the eggs in the gelatinous bags. So here in this diagram, you can see various kinds of nest. The first one is the tree frog, in which the eggs are glued in a leaf that overhangs water. Here in this diagram, you can see the tree frog sitting on the top and guarding the eggs over which are present over the leaf that overhangs the water. Also, you can see here the example of foam nest, and this is also a second kind of foam nest floating on water. And the last one is the mud nest formed by Hyla faber. So all these are the examples of nest, different kinds of nest, nurseries and shelters formed by different kinds of amphibians. Besides nest, nurseries and shelters, the amphibians also shows direct caring, as we have already discussed. So these direct caring involves coiling around the eggs. For example, the amphuma and certain caecilians like ichthyophis and hypogeophis. In this case, the female lays large egg in the burrows in the damp soil and also guards them carefully by coiling her body around them until they hatch. Also, the female of salamander and lithodon also do the same kind of coiling around the eggs. Here in this first diagram, you can see how female ichthyophis is guarding the eggs by coiling around them. The second kind of caring involves transferring the tadpoles into the water. So some species of small frogs which are found in tropical Africa and South America like phyllobates, arthroleptes, pelobates, etc. They deposit their eggs on the ground, and when the tadpoles hatches out, they are they glued themselves into the back of one of the parents with the help of their sucker like mouth and get transported to the water. Here you can see how the tadpoles are glued or attached with their mouth, sucker like mouth, into one of the back of a parent and are transferred to the water. Another is the gluing the eggs to the body. So some amphibians, instead of remaining with the eggs, carry the eggs glued to their body. For example, in the dusky salamander Desmogenathus fuscus, the female carries a string of eggs coiled around her neck. As you can see here in this diagram, the eggs are coiled around the neck of the female until they are hatched. Also, the female in the case of marsupial frogs carries egg on their back. As you can see here in this diagram, the female marsupial frog carrying egg on their back, either in an oval depression which is open or in a closed pouch or in individual packets. Besides this, uh, some anurans some anurans are oviviviparous. That is, they show parental care via viviparity, as they retain their eggs in the oviducts and the female give birth to the young ones. Also, some frogs or amphibians shows organs like brooding pouches in order to safeguard their eggs. For example, the male of terrestrial South America, South American Darwin's frog, that is Rhinoderma darwini, it pushes at least two fertilized eggs into his relatively large vocal sacs. As you can see here in the diagram, present the eggs present in the vocal sacs where they undergo complete development and emerged out as fully formed froglets. So, this is the example of brooding pouches. So these were some kind of some different kinds of parental care shown by different kinds of frogs or amphibians in order to safeguard their eggs or young ones.